Good evening and welcome back to another episode of the Pint-Sized Preview. We are back after a rather quiet week to basically just discuss the win at Cheltenham, which was a long time coming. We're going to talk about first impressions of some of the new signings and look ahead to Peterborough at the weekend. Joining me tonight, just the two gentlemen in front of you, Jaden and Aaron. Good evening to you both.
Evening. How are we doing?
All right, thank you. Difficult week with work. I'm sure both of you will agree with that. But always nice to sit down on a Thursday and talk about Wickham. I've got a kebab inside of me. I've got a beer next to me. And we're here on the podcast talking about Wickham. What more could you want? I was just thinking, actually, I've been dilly-dallying for a few weeks about intro music. And all I could hear was, I think it was your adverts, Jade. We had the distinct sound of the McDonald's advert in the background there.
I think that might have been Aaron. I had my mic on mute.
Oh, was it Aaron?
In the other room, if it is.
In the next room. I hope no one sees we get copyrighted for the McDonald's.
For the
Should be the Rebellion need a theme tune.
Yeah, we'd play that happily if they sponsored us.
So 6 months in and still no Rebellion sponsorship. What is going on?
Not even a message from them.
We've even had Pete on here, and he shouted him out, and they still haven't done it.
Yeah, people live on Rebellion.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe we've got a Jägermeister one instead. Maybe that's the next avenue to take. Speaking of beer and alcohol, have you both got one with you this evening?
Yep. I've gone for, what is that? Peretti, which can only be knockoff Moretti, surely.
Oh, is it one of the little special, is it?
Oh, I don't even know what it is. I was drinking it in the pub earlier, actually, so it's on tap.
Oh, right.
Well,
okay.
I mean, it's a shit pub, but...
Have you got one too? I think we lost you for a moment, Jaden.
Yeah, you might have lost me
smiling
there.
obnoxiously at us.
My fucking internet keeps dying. I've gone for Guinness again tonight, obviously. The old trusty. Love a bit of Guinness. So
your Wi-Fi is dying and water is wet. What else is new?
I'm on the dial-up again tonight, unfortunately, so it's going to be a rough one.
Right, before we get into the football then, also we've got a quite serious topic to talk about first of all. The quite untimely passing of young Adam Ankers in the week. It's sort of, you see it on Twitter every now and again, a young lad losing his life, but it really hits home when it's a fan of your local club. The outpouring of emotion from not only Wickham fans, but the entire football community has been really something to savour. And from all of us, really, in the Pint-Sized Preview gang, we wish Alistair, Adam's dad, be sending all our prayers and best wishes. Adam's family and friends as well. I know he was playing football at the time, something he loved to do, and his friends would have been there as well. So we send them our love and prayers. And we look forward to seeing what the club do to commemorate Adam in the very near future. Okay. Right. A win on Saturday then, boys. It's been a long time coming, really. Only the first win since, what was it, New Year's Day, wasn't it? The Bristol Rovers win. A second win in 18 now. But actually, it's sort of, when you're looking at in all competitions, again, it sort of keeps that decent run of form going. We're not losing too many. And after the quarterfinals win in the Bristol Street Motors, it's now looking rather positive, Jaden. A really good win and performance on Saturday.
Yeah, I seem to forget we've only lost once this calendar year because by some of the meltdowns our fans have had, it feels like we're just losing all the time. But no, it was a very good performance. We went there and did what we needed to do. They were pretty awful, if I'm honest. One of the worst teams we've played against this season, from what I can remember. Obviously, penalties again being a little bit of a problem, but at least it ended up in the back of the net, I suppose. So that's something to focus on. But yeah, it's we just went there, and we looked like we'd had a real kick up the arse. The new signings worked well. I thought Butcher was pretty good in the middle, allowed Potts to get further forward like he was playing next to Scour, and I think that's what he was brought in to do. And obviously we seem a little bit better when Freddie's allowed to go forward and use his creativity rather than being the more holding of the two midfielders. So I expect us to sort of have an upturn in form now. We got a player like Butcher in and Potts performing well in the midfield.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we'll sort of come on to individual performances in just a moment, Evan, but it's one of those games where we can go on with a very, very clear game plan and execute it perfectly. It seems that when we have these decent games, we execute a game plan rather than just going in blindly. We knew that Cheltenham would throw balls into the box and defence dealt with them perfectly. Just another one of those games, really.
Yeah, I think we've said a few times over recent week, defence has not really been a problem lately. It's been more scoring goals at the other end, and we haven't really lost by many. It's been the odd goal here and there. So yeah, I think our defence is pretty solid at the moment. It's pretty settled. I can't see any changes in that. And like Jaden said, as someone like Butcher coming in, kind of replacing Scow, and how long he's out for, we don't know. But yeah, gives Potts a bit of freedom to move forward a bit, and I think that's when we see the best of him. I don't think we've maybe seen quite the best of him recently when he's had to do a bit more of the defensive because he's been playing along Wheeler or Phillips or whatever because Scowen's been out.
Obviously, the biggest talking point, Jaden, is this run of form that we're on. But actually, a lot of positivity around the club at the moment. I wonder if he's still there, actually. He's quite still. Are you there, Jaden?
I think.
We lost him. I see he's been alright for a few weeks, hasn't he, with the Wi-Fi?
Yeah. Oh god, the dial-up striking again. I heard you in the middle of me of asking me a question, then it dropped out again. 2 in 1 go there. Christ,
that's 2 in 5 minutes. That's pretty good even for you, actually.
Got to be a forfeit for
that. We'll have to go to his forfeit from last week. His forfeit is he doesn't get one anymore.
Oh right, okay, fine.
Where were we? Lots of positivity. Despite the run of form, we're in the semi-finals of the Cup. Lots of really good new signings and a win on Saturday. It's looking rather rosy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, it's crazy how things can change after a few results in football, can't it? Like, start of January before the transfer window, everything was, we were going down with shit, all that. People were saying, and now it's all looking really good because we got a favourable tie, I think, away at Bradford in the Cup, and it's a real chance to get to Wembley here. Honestly, they're not in very good form in League Two. We've been there, done it this season, beaten them at Valley Parade. So we've got a really, really good chance to go to Wembley. And like we've already said, the business that we've done in January, I think, is excellent. We've had probably one of the best windows in the league. The loans have been great, like Nigel Longwick coming in. Saxon earlier be a good player for us, and obviously getting the likes of Butcher and Labala on, who are like they're mid-20s, aren't they? They'll be around with us for a little bit on long-term deals. So it's good to see, we've got a few short-term fixes as well as players who you'd hope would be with us for the long run. So yeah, it just feels like a totally different vibe around the club. And even on Saturday at Cheltenham, from minute one, all the fans who were there were behind the boys, and they kept singing and chanting, well, until the 90th, really. And it was really, really good to see. And we got rewarded with a very, very solid performance.
I mean, it's quite remarkable, Aaron, isn't it? Like the upturn in fortune and positivity around the club. I mean, even looking back to last Thursday when we had the director of football on a fan sort of podcast live stream, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's not just on the pitch that everything's looking a bit better. Off the pitch as well, the social media presence is through the roof at the moment. Just everything really, really coming together at the right time, maybe.
Seems to be, yeah. I think it's kind of a perfect opportunity for a bit of a boost and maybe a bit of a restart, isn't it? With deadlines and a few signings and kind of sort of get on the positivity from that, I guess. Like that, both of them are decent signings. Butcher in particular, I think, is a very good signing, and especially getting him on a free and a young player on, I would imagine, a fair few year contract. I think, yeah, there's strength to build on from there, and obviously the win kind of helps keep that going. It's going to be tough on Saturday, but yeah, there's a lot more positivity around now compared to 2 or 3 weeks ago when it was pretty dire at points.
Just before we move on to a few more individual performances and then the January window, you mentioned, Jaden, penalty practice needed. A much better attacking performance on Saturday, but I think that's now 6 penalties we've missed this season, which I think is as many as we've missed in the last 5 years. We just can't seem to convert from 12 yards.
It's massively concerning, if I'm honest. I mean, I don't really know why GMAC switched up what he did against Fleetwood, because that was an emphatic penalty. No goalkeeper in the world saving that. So why he's gone from very top left to rolling on bottom right, I'll never know. But it'd be interesting to see if we do get another one who takes it. Do they go back to Luke? Do they stick with GMAC, or maybe someone else like Vokes step up to take one? Because obviously got a good eye for goal, Sam Vokes, and he'd probably be pretty reliable from 12 yards. So we'll have to see what happens there. Obviously, it'd been a lot more frustrating if we hadn't got the 3 points and it, wouldn't have gone in off the rebound. But it is a bit of a concern because it's cost us points. Cost us a point at Exeter, cost us 2 at Fleetwood if Leahy would have scored. So it's something that needs to be worked on for sure.
I did say we'd have to get JJ on penalties, but I suppose if we leave it any longer, they'll start wheeling them out, won't we? Right, let's touch on a few individual performances then from Saturday before we get into the January window. It seems, Dan, we've spoken about Jack Grimmer a lot in recent weeks, in a right-back position. But centre-back on Saturday, just as imperious as he has been in recent weeks. Really rich from a form, which you don't often see from such a, I guess, I don't want to say boring defender, but you get what I'm saying. He's very sort of, he does his job. He's there. He's not too excited. I don't know what to say without sounding offensive.
No, I get what you're saying.
Form.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. He's not kind of getting you off your seats kind of player, is he? He's not like your typical, But he, as a right back, I think he's probably our best option at right back, and slotted in at centre back at the weekend. We know he can do a job there, and I think there's been maybe question marks at points this season over some of his performances, and as with a lot of our players, I guess. But yeah, he seems to be back to his best, and if we can keep him in that kind of form, and he's a crucial part of the defence, we've already kind of spoke about, saying that they're pretty settled and pretty solid at the moment. Yeah, there's been the odd question, but really and truthfully, he's always been fairly solid for us, and I think now we're just maybe seeing what he should be at, whereas we haven't maybe over the start of the season.
Mm-hmm. And next to him, Jaden, Joe Lowe. I mean, fabricated reports on the last day of the window. It might have been off. And I think he played on Saturday like he had a point to prove. Really, really quite good again. Although I think Cheltenham's game plan kind of played into his hands. Stick a really small strike up front and go long to him. It didn't make a lot of sense, but Joe Lowe, very, very good.
Yeah, just absolutely brilliant on Saturday, honestly. Won everything in the air, just looked, massive next to Grimmer. And what you said about Cheltenham's game plan not working, it was evident that it wasn't going to work from minute one, really, when they lined up with such a small striker and trying to long ball it to Joe Lowe. But, we did the same last year to Vokesy when they had Caleb Taylor and it didn't work. So they got to taste their own medicine, really, didn't they? But Joe, I think he'll be playing with a point to prove. Like you said, he'll be hearing of all these rumours. I highly doubt we'd sell him to another League One club like Blackpool, as was reported. But he'll be looking to get that Championship move in the summer because he knows that he's being noticed and he knows that other clubs are sort of sniffing around him as a potential option. I know that there were reports that multiple clubs were after him, and I'm sure he'll know that. So I think in the next 17 or 18 games, how many we got left, we're really going to see a different Joe Low, a motivated one. And honestly, if he moves on in the summer, I'm fine with that, as long as he gives us all he's got, his best performances for the next for the rest of the season, help us climb the table. Then we can get a decent fee out of him. Then it's worked out for all parties, I suppose.
Absolutely. And just one more name in the back line than Aaron, Kane Vincent-Young. I mean, it's taken a little while to see him, really. But he seems, after his performance in the Cup last week and on Saturday, sort of back to full fitness or near enough and looking really, really sharp.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe he wasn't. I think there's got to be question marks over whether he's fully fit when we signed him. He'd not played too much, and then obviously the injury took him out for a fairly long part of the season. Seems to be back fit, seems to be starting to kind of settle in and show us what he can do, and hopefully we can. I would think we'll see a bit more of him over a few weeks. I mean, I'm surprised. Possibly, I still question where he should play as kind of a weird one. I know I spoke to a few people and said, should he play at? So obviously he's more of a wing back. Should we kind of give him opportunities on the wing? I think he's a good crosser of the ball. I think we might see more of him a bit further forward over the next few weeks, the next few games.
I suppose then we'll sort of talk very quickly about Sam Vokes. Start of the month, really, really fine form. Maybe tailed off a little bit in recent weeks, but I think Saturday, Jayden, back to his best.
Yeah, I mean, that second goal was fucking champagne, wasn't it? That was unbelievable. Just Grimmer to McCleary, lovely pass into Vokes, just knocks it onto McCleary, goal. It's just, exactly how we want to play. Use the target man well, and when he's not scoring goals, he's contributing with his hold-up play, and that's exactly what he did on Saturday. Maybe, obviously he got the assist, but didn't really get into the game as much as he'd like. Missed quite a good opportunity to make it 4-0. But, Vokes, he always gives everything, and he's had a really good month in December, and hopefully it continues because I think he's a really important player for us.
I think that's most of the players who were excellent on Saturday. We'll talk about a couple more when we sort of get into the first impressions. Starting off, Aaron, with Matt Butcher. I know you weren't at the game Saturday, so I won't ask you about his performance as such, but he looks like a player who's going to bring an awful lot to this team in the second half of the season, and of course going into next year and perhaps further than that as well.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned a little while ago. I think he's a solid signing as someone who's experienced in that league, who's young, who can do the job that. I mean, let's be honest, we're going to have a bit of a change in the summer, and obviously Freddie Potts is going to probably end up higher on loan somewhere. Him and Scowen in midfield next season, you'd be pretty happy with. I think, yeah, it's a good signing, and hopefully one who will kind of see as maybe a first name on the team sheet over the next few seasons.
I guess it's worth as well, Jayden, pointing out that this isn't a rash signing based on the fact that he was leaving Plymouth. Bloomfield mentioned he was a big fan of him when he was at Accrington. I think he alluded to the fact that Ainsworth looked at him as well when he was here. But, this is a signing that Bloomfield has targeted for a while. We've probably given him a decent length of contract, and he's, performance-wise on Saturday, you can see why he's brought him in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's a very sort of similar player to Scowen defensively. More of a defensive-minded midfielder, I suppose, than a box-to-box. I believe it's, according to rumours, 2.5 years we gave him from what sport was it Football Insider reported or something. So, yeah, that'll lock him down until he's at least 30, 29, so peak of his career, really. Honestly, I'm really happy with the signing of him. I think he gives us another good option in the midfield. I think Blooms will have a little bit of a selection headache because obviously he's mentioned before that Leahy was brought in to play midfield. I won't expect him to see him at left back when Saxon's fit. And then we got Potsy, obviously Scowen, and Butcher as well. So we're going to have a really, really strong midfield coming into the back end of the season. I think he's sort of like not really a like-for-like replacement of Killian Phillips, but he will probably do a sort of similar job. He's a big presence in the midfield like Killian was. He'll win the second balls, and I think he did that fantastically on on Saturday. So it's a really good signing. And I think what we've seen with Bloomfield is he has these players in mind, like you said, that he's wanted for a while. There are a few, obviously, he said that when I was managing Colchester, he wanted the likes of Joe Lowe, Dale Taylor, and that on loan. And he's brought them to Wickham. So he's obviously got a very clear plan of who he wants.
Mm-hmm. And I'll stick with you, Jaden, just to discuss Beverly Labala. Another one who, I think he played 20, 25 minutes. But again, clear to see why he brought him in. A workhorse who's going to press, drive us forward, and very, very nearly started off with a spectacular goal.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a big fan of Labala. Honestly, I thought when we signed him, that was a really, really shrewd piece of business. He impressed me when Burton played against us, and obviously scored a fantastic goal, their top goal scorer. And yeah, the 25-minute cameo was pretty impressive, if I'm honest. He obviously nearly got the halfway line goal. It was a lot closer than I thought it was from where I was sat. But yeah, he looks like a quick player. Good passion, he loved the when he came over at the end. He looked happy, which is good to see. Looks like he'll fight for the badge, and just another great option to have on the wing, I suppose, because we moved away from this sort of back four into the 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1, whatever it is at the minute. And versatility wise, he can play up front, can play on the wings. Good pace, which is something I think we lack. And whether he's a starter or just an impact sub, I think he's a really good option anywhere, really.
Mm-hmm. Let's come to you, Aaron, and on one more January signing. We didn't see him play on Saturday, but Nigel Longwyke in on loan from Wolves. Let's take a slightly different angle. Really good-looking chap. Someone to go up to toe-to-toe with Tafazoli for the best-looking player at the club.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that professional look, and he looks like someone who should be a Premier League footballer, I guess. We've obviously been on loan from Wolves. He looks the part, and I think he's got promoted from League One and played pretty much most of their games, I think, or a fair chunk of them. Another decent signing, and someone that, I'd be amazed if we don't see 10 or so appearances from him for the rest of the season starts. Yeah, he looks like another good signing.
I've warned my missus that she's not allowed Downton's part while he's here on loan, just in case, because he is a very handsome bloke. Right, let's jump into, I guess, this weekend then. Peterborough, Jaden. Always a fun game because of recent history, and always one that Wickham are sort of going to want to get in there, get stuck in, and get the points.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Peterborough's recent form, they've come off the back of a few poor results against bottom half teams. They lost 3-2 at home to Wigan. And then obviously they had the midweek defeat away at Exeter, who are beginning to pick up a little bit of form, but that will bode well for Wickham. Obviously, we got 2 wins on the bounce in all competitions, scored 9 in our last 3 games. So scoring doesn't really seem to be the issue anymore. And if we put in a defensive performance like we did against Cheltenham, then I don't see why we can't go and beat them. Because honestly, with this new look squad, I think we can take it to anyone on our day. I think maybe if we started the season with this squad, we'd be a lot higher up than we are now. So let's see what we can do. Obviously, we're in better form than them, but it's definitely one we would like to win because of a certain man who writes for the Peterborough Telegraph.
It feels quite weird saying that we're in better form than a team in 4th place, but actually, when you look at the numbers, I think we are. We've spoken in recent weeks about picking up results to build a bit of momentum, and it's all well and good beating a team like Cheltenham away from home where you're perhaps expected to win, but a win against someone high flying like Peterborough on home soil, that's a really, really good chance, especially with their form, to build some real momentum going into some really important games.
Definitely, yeah. I think confidence as well. We've kind of said off the back of the transfer window and then the win at Cheltenham that the confidence is kind of coming back. Go and beat someone like that at home, and obviously there's a rivalry, a bit of a rivalry or whatever. That's only going to do the team the world of good, especially going into obviously the whatever it is trophy semi-final and to be fair, a tough run of games in the league coming up over the next few weeks as well.
Mm-hmm. We mentioned that tough run, Jaden. Top of my head, it's now Bolton, Oxford, the semi-final, and then it's Stevenage away from home as well. Really, really tough month. And, you're looking at this Saturday really to pick up points where it might be a bit trickier in the rest of the games.
Yeah, I think maybe this is one of, if not our best opportunity to get a win out of the next 4 league games. Like you said, it's a bit of a run from hell, especially if you're starting to pick up momentum. We've had a few decent results recently, and it's not what you want to see in your calendar, really. But I do feel confident going into Peterborough, and I haven't felt like that in a while. I think it could be a very similar sort of game to Blackpool at home, where maybe we aren't expected to win, but we put in enough, we put in a good performance and get the points. We have a fairly decent record when it comes to playing Peterborough. And if I'm honest, they didn't particularly impress me in the reverse fixture. I know Darren Ferguson's got them playing now a little bit better than what they were, but still, they're not in the greatest run of form. So I think this is probably our best chance to get 3 points out of the upcoming games, certainly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, without looking at the stats and the figures directly, I don't think we've lost against Peterborough since a 4-1 drubbing a few years ago. Was it 4-0 at their place? I think Giles Phillips got sent off that day for the most blatant shove you've ever seen in the 6-yard box. But since then, I don't actually recall a Peterborough loss, which I think Aaron bodes well for this weekend, really. I mean, there's always goals between the two, but again, Wycombe aren't really conceding too many at the minute.
Yeah, we've said that before. That about we've not really, other than the opening couple of games of the season, we've not actually been turned over and kind of battered. Mm-hmm. The Peterborough away game last season, we played them off the park and then battered them. That's that streak that'll always stick. And if we can play anywhere near the way we played that day, and it'd be brilliant. But yeah, I think it's always going to be a tough game, but we kind of, like you said, we've had the upper hand on them, and hopefully we can continue that. I think there's no reason to think at the moment, with a bit of confidence back, that there's any reason to not expect us to at least get a draw, if not beat them. Like you said, we're on the better run of form, and forgetting where they are on the league table, if you look at the last couple of weeks, you'd kind of expect us to get something out of that.
Mm-hmm. Let's sort of wrap it up then. Jump into some predictions, but I will give you a stat very quickly on the topic of not conceding many. Obviously, only 2 wins in 17 or 18 in the league, but we haven't lost by more than 1 goal since the defeat at Cheltenham in September in league action, which I guess it bodes well for the sort of defensive argument that we're all putting forward. But let's come to you, Jaden, for your, I guess, prediction, what to expect from the game.
It's one of them ones where it could either be an absolute drumming or a pretty tight game, but I think it's more likely to be tight. We have scored a lot of goals recently, don't concede many, but obviously we're coming up against top opposition, so I can't see us, going and scoring 3 or 4 like we could have against Cheltenham. But I think it will be potentially a narrow Wycombe win, maybe a 2-1, a 1-0, just sort of snatch it. Obviously, like we said, the run of form's going to come into play, and we're going to be high on confidence. Them, maybe not so much. I think our players will certainly be more up for it than they are, and it would be a statement win, I think, to sort of build momentum, and it's a game that we can really look at and think, if we win this could be the turning point in our season. This could, be the spark that we need to propel us up the table. So I think, I think we'll win it narrowly, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, prediction from yourself, Aaron, and a slightly different question. Can we expect any changes from Saturday, or pretty much unchanged?
Pretty much unchanged, I would say, unless there's anything we don't know about. I mean, possibly maybe one change. I could see someone like Kadua possibly coming in, or Campbell. I mean, I'm not convinced with Campbell, but I think Bloomfield seems to like him. I could kind of see him coming in and starting. I think echo a lot of what Jaden said. I don't see it being. It's not going to be a 3 or 4-0 like previous games, and maybe what we should have done at Cheltenham. I think close, maybe 2-1, 2-0 if we're lucky and keep another clean sheet. But yeah, I'm going to say 2-0. I'm going to say we'll keep clean sheet.
Mm-hmm. I'm also going to go for a Wycombe win. I agree with you, but I think it's going to be tight. So I'm going to go for 2-1 Wycombe win. And I guess just on the topic of Campbell, it is worth pointing out that there is no obligation in the contract that he needs X amount of minutes. I know that's one of those rumours that have been circulating about. I think the Wolves manager said something. Well, he said that, didn't he? He said they guaranteed us minutes. That's not the case. There's no such promise been made there. So if he starts on Saturday, it's because Bloomfield likes him, as Alan said. As well, on the topic of Bloomfield, happy birthday to the gaffer, the big 40 today. But I think that just about sums it up for tonight and this week. A slightly quiet one, but again, always enjoyable. So thank you to both Jade and Aaron for joining me tonight. Enjoy the game on Saturday if you're making the trip down to Adams Park. And we will see you all on Sunday, because it's a Tuesday game, Wednesday game. Tuesday, Wednesday, either or. But we should be back on Sunday to discuss the game at Bolton. And hopefully we'll have a win to talk about this weekend as well. So thank you all very much for joining us this evening. We will see you all very, very soon.